Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. A few points, inshallah, before I continue from the place which we last left off. The first is that it's mustahab to keep a tidy saf whilst praying. Now, if there is, and we mentioned this before, that if there is a distance of more than 1.5, 1.2, depending on the marja' that you follow between you and the next musalli, meaning that you are not attached to the salat jama'ah except by this distance, then this will make your salah individual and you are no longer praying a communal prayer. It's mustahab to keep a tidy saf anyway. The other point is with the dua that we recite after each obligatory salah in the month of Rajab, Ya man arjuhu li kulli khair wa amanu sakhatahu 'inda kulli shar, at the end, which is where we begin to recite Ya dhal jalali wal ikram, Ya dhal na'ma'i wal jud, Ya dhal manni wal tawl, Harram shaybati 'ala an-nar, it is mustahab to hold on to your beard with your right hand and your left hand, and with your right pointing finger, you move it as a way of showing obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Somebody who's poor, who's needy, who needs the support of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's mustahab to do this while reciting this portion of the dua. Continuing with the ahkam of sawm, which we were talking of, we mentioned that because sawm is a passive act, meaning that it's not an active one, not something that you do, but rather something that you stay away from or abstain from, niyyah becomes an even more important and integral component of this amal. Which is why we mentioned that the ulama say that if you were to not maintain your niyyah between dawn all the way until maghrib, then this effectively nullifies the act of sawm. Sayyid al-Sistani has this opinion, as well as, if I'm not mistaken, most of our maraja'. So you need to maintain the niyyah. Now, one other point to mention is that in the month of Ramadan, you can only fast the fasts of the month of Ramadan. Meaning that if you have some fasts that you need to make up for, and for any reason you're not fasting today, let's assume that today is one of the days of the month of Ramadan. Mathalan, I'm traveling, but I do have a sawm that's qada upon me. Can I fast that fasting in the month of Ramadan? No. The only fastings that you are able, that you can hold are the fasting of the month of Ramadan of that single year. That's one point. The other point is, as part of your niyyah, you must make the intention to stay away from the things that nullify your sawm. Now, do you need to mention each and every single one of them? Mathalan, I should stay away from eating, drinking, submerging my head underwater, according to the fuqaha that have this opinion? No. It's enough for you to make the intention to abstain from the collective things that cause any harm to your sawm. Now, if somebody was not aware that something nullifies their sawm, whatever that thing may be, mathalan, as I mentioned, submerging your head underwater. Sayyid al-Sistani doesn't have this opinion, but the vast majority of our scholars believe that submerging your head underwater nullifies your sawm. So the question is, if somebody didn't know that submerging their head down under the water causes the nullification or the annulment of their sawm, if they do this, does it break their fast? Answer, yes it does. But if they don't do it, however, they don't make the intention to abstain from submerging their head down the water, does this nullify their sawm? According to Sayyid al-Sistani, it does not. However, there are a number of our scholars that do believe that if you are not aware that something invalidates your Sawm and you do not make the intention to abstain from that one thing, then it could potentially nullify your Sawm, meaning that you would need to do qada later on. Another question was asked from Sayyid al-Sistani, and I think Sayyid Ali al-Aziz Aydan asked this question, which is if somebody makes the intention to not fast. Mathalan, they're working, he's a farm worker, it's a hot day, and he says, sack this, I'm not even going to fast anymore. Then, after a couple of hours, when there's a little bit more shade and he can think more clearly, he says, you know what, I'm not going to invalidate my Sawm, I'm going to maintain it. In this case, does he have to make up for this Sawm or not? First of all, he needs to abstain from food on that day. And according to Sayyid al-Sistani, as a matter of